this. Thank you. That was good stuff. Thank you both. Good morning. Two things became abundantly and painfully clear to me in the last couple of weeks. One, this Bible and my eyes don't get along anymore. 5 decades of looking at things, they're wore out. I've been holding out, it's time for glasses. And for a large print Bible. Fortunately, right back there in the closet is a large print Bible. Second thing is that Jesus sees things pretty different than I do. No surprise there, right? But this whole idea of intimacy with him involves some stuff and some connections that I can't say that I've made before. I can't say that are the first thing that come to my mind. I've known that song for years, and I have never once thought about what we're going to talk about tonight while singing that song. And yet, it's the first thing Jesus thinks about. So I think I've been missing something, which is also no surprise. A lot of missing going on. We're in the midst of what do we got, Dr. Perry, 5 weeks? 6-week series on intimacy with God. Can we all agree that that's a good thing? Well, that's what we want, right? We want that connection. We want that love. We want that closeness. And we started out, Reverend Una introduced the idea that Jesus might have a love language. All right? And the thing that she said, and you almost just went right by it, and I went, oh my gosh, is she said, we don't have to convince Jesus to want to be in a close relationship with us. He wants that. God created us to be in that relationship. We don't have to earn anything. We don't have to convince him. I know, Jesus, I know you're busy, but if you could love me a little bit, no, it's what he wants. And then Dr. Perry jumps in on the first of our 3 hindrances to this intimacy. And he's like, we're accepting good when we could have the best. We're getting busy and self-righteous and religious. And what Jesus wants is something way better. And that's a relationship and spending time. Martha versus Mary. Right? And then last week, Pastor Brian stood up here and just laid his life open in front of us. I was like, oh my gosh. I have to follow that? This idea that if we believe the lies of the enemy that we're somehow not worthy of intimacy with Jesus, then we miss out, and we're hindered in that. The third hindrance, today's hindrance, is we just don't get the connection between intimacy with God and intimacy with each other. We separate them. We think we can be close and intimate and faithful with our Lord and not love the people around us. And we're going to get smacked around by Scripture today on that point. Because Jesus ain't buying it. He's just not. Now, this isn't, so we're gonna hang out in John a bunch tonight, which is kind of, you have to understand, which is pretty funny. It might be my least favorite book in the Bible. I know there's a lot of John fans out there. I'm just not one of them. But it's where I had to go. So, sucks to be me. But look, John isn't the only place that Jesus makes this connection. Repeatedly and regularly, he shrinks the space between our relationship with him and our relationship with the people around us. The connection, the line that links those two gets shorter and shorter the more you hang out with him. All right? I mean, if you're at the altar giving your offering, if you're in the midst of worship, if you're coming to me to give your offering, and there remember that you have something, your brother has something against you, I don't want your offering. Go fix it. Then come back and we can, right? It's connected. Don't expect to be forgiven if you're not going to forgive the people around you. Don't think that you're going to receive my grace if you're not giving it out to the people that you spend every day with. What you do for the least of these, you what? You do for me, or you've done to me. They're connected. Love, listen to this. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you will be sons and daughters of your Father who is in heaven. How do you become a son or a daughter of Father in heaven? You love people. I mean, you love really hard people. And then every time that anybody came to him and said anything close to, hey, sum this whole thing up. Or the question that the one guy asked was, what's the greatest commandment? What does he say? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, pretty much everything you got, and love your neighbor as yourself. They're right there. We live our lives like they're not connected, and every time you ask Jesus about what it means to be in a relationship with him and to be connected with him, he says, yeah, okay, you and I, but everybody else. Love them all. Now, what's interesting is that, so I don't spend a lot of time on Greek, going back to, because it seems like 99% of the time that I go look up the Greek word for something, it's the English word. Like the translators have done a decent job, and so I'm not going to necessarily learn anything. But when you look up intimacy, Greek word for intimacy, koinonia, all right, fellowship, communion, intimacy, those kinds of things. Okay, guess what? Jesus never uses the word. I'm 3 years of this. It only shows up, and it's a Paul word. Paul likes koinonia. Paul uses it all over the place. Jesus talks about things like remain in me. Jesus talks about him and his Father coming and making their home with you. Jesus talks about love. When he says love, all right, we're talking his understanding of intimacy. Okay, so he's not going to use the Greek word koinonia for fellowship, and you're not going to find it in Scripture. He's going to talk about his Father and him coming and moving in. All right. The problem with Jesus being more into love than koinonia is that we've got a really messed up understanding of love. I mean, we've almost got no chance. I mean, the scriptures we're going to look at today, it's love, 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 love. And as a group of people, we have almost no chance of seeing what Jesus actually means when he says that word. because our modern understanding of it is so different. Right? What's it say in the dictionary if you look up love? I'll tell you. An intense feeling of deep affection. Does anybody in here think that's what Jesus means when he says, love one another? Or even when he says, I love you, or I love a deep feeling, an intense feeling of deep affection. But that is definition number one in the Webster's Dictionary. All right? And what you've got to understand about the Webster's Dictionary is that they change things based on modern usage of words. So it's actually a pretty interesting little social commentary to look up the changes that Webster makes every year, or these dictionaries make, and they kind of move things, but the primary understanding is this intense feeling of deep affection. And let's face it, that's okay. We like that. It feels good. We want to feel that about somebody. We want people to feel that about us. It's good. But it's nowhere near what Jesus thinks when he says love. Right? What does he say? Greater love has no man or woman than to lay down his life, her life, for his or her friends. Jesus' understanding of love is not a feeling, an affection, no matter how intense. Jesus' understanding of love is that you would give up everything for that other person. They come first. So fight this today. Every time we read love, don't think affection or feeling. Think die. Happy Valentine's Day. All right? I mean, that's what he says. What does Jesus think love? Well, he says word for word, greater love has no one than to die for their friends. So his understanding of love is not affection. To love somebody like Jesus talks about, you might not even like them. In this crowd, that works out well. I'm kidding. Ran across this line. You know someone's love is real when they charge in while everyone else is running out. Want that one more time? You know someone's love is real when they charge in while everyone else is running out. That's what he means when he talks to his disciples about love. That's what he means when he talks to us about love. That's what he means when he tells us he loves us. Because he did. He ran in when everybody else was running out. Now, I am not going to stand up here and say that the words that Jesus speaks in John 13 to 17 are the most important words that he said. I am going to say that they are the things he chose to say to his disciples when he knew he only had about 2 or 3 hours left before it all hit the fan. Okay? When you know you're done, when you know you're not going to have another chance to interact with or speak with a group of people that you've invested in, do you just kind of hang out? No, you think about what you're going to say to them. What are the last things I want these guys to hear before this all goes down? And it's going to be them. All right, I'm going to be gone. They're going to go through this, and everything that I've done here comes down to kind of these guy's hanging on. So John 13 to 17 are the last couple hours that he has with his disciples. All right? John 13 is the beginning of the Last Supper. And John 18 is when he gets arrested. It's all one night. All right? And John spends that whole night where? Sitting right next to Jesus. Like, in those days, you guys have heard how they ate back then, right? It's not like us. We don't sit at a table, formal dining room. The table's like this high. And they're laying on one elbow, eating. All right. John is right next to Jesus. So much so that at one point in this section of Scripture, it says, the one whom Jesus loved, who was resting his head on Jesus' bosom. Like John is leaning against Jesus when this all goes down, and we get to read his account of it. All right? So that's what you call a primary source. Who's right there. All right? And so in John, we're going to jump a little bit, and the key passages are going to pop up. There's two places we're really going to look, but bear with me while I sort of try and cover about 5 chapters of the Bible in one sermon. Okay? Remember, fight the whole love, intense feeling of affection thing. All right? John 13, beginning of the last dinner he's going to have. All right, they're celebrating the Passover. And he says it was just before the Passover, Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. Hey, this goes back to the last few hours you spend with a group of people that you love and have invested your life in. I'm going to pay, like I said, I'm not going to say they're the most important words he's ever said, but I'm going to pay attention to these. All right? And then what does he do? He gets up and he washes their feet. All right, so John 13 is the feet washing. Jesus, Lord of the universe, creator of the world, washing 12 guys' dirty feet. All right, pretty striking visual. And then he says, look, if I'm going to do it for you, you do it for each other. Right. Then Judas leaves. It's right after the foot washing. Don't miss that. Jesus washed Judas's feet before he betrayed him. So Judas leaves to go do what he's going to do. And Jesus says in verse 33, so John 13, my children, I will be with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and just as I told the Jews, so I tell you now, where I am going, you cannot come. A new command I give you. Come back to that. Love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know you are my disciples, if you love one another. That's new. He says, a new command I give you. Wait, he's been saying love each other for a while. I mean, they're talking about loving your neighbor in Leviticus. Well, wait, Jesus, it's the end here. What are you giving new orders for? A new commandment. So that was the first time I'd ever noticed that. He says, a new command I give you. Love one another. And I go, that's not new, Jesus. What am I missing? Love each other like I loved you. There's the new part. Nobody had loved anybody like Jesus before that. You can tell people love your neighbor as yourself, and that's about as good as you can expect out of them. Right? But then all of a sudden you get the ultimate example. The ultimate in sacrificial, dying, you are more important than me love, because Jesus is sitting right there. And so now it's not love your neighbor as yourself. Now it's love each other like I loved you. Follow this example. That's what's new. All right, the spirit of it isn't new. It's not a new thing. Suddenly Jesus at the very end is saying, hey, good idea. You guys ought to love each other. No, but now they've got an example. Not an intense feeling of affection example, I gave up everything for you example. So then he, kind of moves on, keeps talking. If you got a red letter Bible, 14 to 17 is all red. It's a lot of. He's got 2 hours left. He's got a few important things to say. 14 is a really interesting chapter to me. I kind of don't like it. I've already told you I don't like the book of John, but 14, Jesus spends the chunk of it making a connection that I struggle with. And that connection is, if you love me, you'll obey my commands. And I got to be honest with you, that doesn't work for me. If when I proposed to Kim to marry me, if either one of us had said, well, I'm going to need you to obey my commands. You've got to be kidding me. I've got this ring. It's sunset on the beach in Huntington Beach, California. I'm on my knee. I'm professing my love for you, and you want me to obey? What universe are you from? That's not a connection we make. I don't associate obedience with love, especially not with Kim. Dr. Perry, she's not here. We're good. Delia's calling her. See, the problem is the fourth watch people are on her side. And so I'm in trouble. All that prayer that was coming my way, now done. So my first reaction is that I struggle. Like, wait a second. I don't love you if I don't obey you. That doesn't feel. Well, there's my first problem. That doesn't feel right. Okay, but I stopped and I looked at that and I realized, wait a second. Who's saying this? All right, it's not Kim telling me that I have to prove my love to her by obeying her commands. It's not me. It's not Pastor Alex standing up here and saying, hey, if you guys, Fountain of Life, love me, you'll do everything I say. Right? It's none of us saying that. It's the creator of the universe saying that. It's a guy who just gave 3 years to these people, teaching them everything they and the rest of us need to know in order to be the people that he created us to be. he can say this. We kind of can't. He can come in and say, doing what I say is important and an expression of your love for me. In a way that I don't think we can say that to each other the same way. Because none of my words are anywhere near as powerful or as true or as real as his. My investment in the people he's talking to has never matched what his did. I can't say those words because I haven't given to the people I would want to say those words to like he has given to the people he's saying that to. So at first blush, I'm not a big fan of the obey, love connection, but I got to admit, it makes sense. I've come to a place I'm okay with it with Jesus. So we go back to his understanding of love, right? That you would die for someone else. And so when he says, if you love me, if you really want to love me, not affection, intense feeling, but love me, then you'll take my words to heart. You'll value the things that I value. And then he keeps going. All right, so that's an important connection that he spends some time on. He's about ready to leave. This one makes sense to me. He's about ready to leave, and he wants these guys to know that it's pretty important that they don't forget what he said. So if you love me, you'll obey my commands. Then he slides into John 15. And 15 is the famous part of this. It's the vine and the branches, where he sets up this image of here's how connected we are. I'm the vine, you're the branches, the Father is the vine dresser. And some things happen in there, but think about that. He's talking about intimacy. He's talking about connection. He's saying you're not going to get anywhere if you're disconnected from me. But if you're connected, some things are going to happen. The Father's going to love on you. Prune, direct, trim. Sometimes that's not going to feel good. And you're going to produce fruit. All right, so he sets up this whole imagery of intimacy, this image of connectivity. All right, and he gets to verse 9. He says, as the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now, remain in my love. Okay, my contention, when he says remain, he's talking about intimacy. He's talking about connection. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. I've told you this, that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. All right, so goes back to this connect or love and obedience idea. And says, look, the way to remain, the way to stay connected is to follow my teaching. And you're sitting there and you're like, any particular teaching you had in mind, Jesus? You've said a lot. Do I have to do all of it? If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love. My command is this: love each other as I've loved you. Mic drop. I mean, the whole point of chapters 14 and 15 is stay connected with me. All right, stay connected. I'm going to be gone, but I need you to stay connected to me. And the way you do that is that you follow my teachings. You obey my commands. And then he narrows the whole thing down to one command. Like 6 words. Love one another as I have loved you. 8 words. Actually, it's 7, isn't it? Everybody's counting. Right? It all comes down. Love each other like I loved you. That's it. I love this. I'm a reductionist by nature. Okay, I love just taking things down to their most simplest point. I knew this was going to happen. Me and Pastor Alex's ear are shaped different. I love taking things down to their simplest essence. All right. My students out at Madison College love this because they know exactly what's going to be on the test. Break it down. No unnecessary fluff. All right. That's what he just did. If you love me, you want to stay connected, obey what I've told you. And what I'm telling you is love each other like I've loved you. You want to be intimate with Jesus. You love other people. You want that connection with God. The first thing he's going to do is say, so how you doing with the people around you? And then you go. I mean, I love the line. You're all I want. You're all I've ever needed. But we don't get that. We can't just have Jesus. I mean, he's more important than everything else, but you can't just have intimacy with Jesus, just you and him all by your lonesome. He repeatedly says, hey, how about that guy? How about her? So yeah, time alone with the Lord is great, it's good, and all that kind of stuff, but regularly in Scripture, as soon as you want just Jesus, he goes, all of them. Go love them. And that's where, it's one of the places, that's where intimacy with him comes from. That's how we get connected to Jesus. It's through each other. It's through giving up, sacrificing, dying for each other. That's a weird connection. But I can't argue with it. He stands there and says, you want to be connected to me, love the people around you, like I did. Die for people. Lose for people. Suffer for people. Be uncomfortable for people. Go without for other people. Right? Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. There it is again. You want to love me? Do what I command. What do I command? Love one another, just like I did. It just hammers it home. That little connection happens repeatedly in these chapters. So in Jesus' last few hours, he decides that this is an important thing to say more than once. All right, look, I'm going to be gone, but if you want to keep loving me, look out for each other. And he slides into chapter 16, and he does the kind of thing that you would expect someone to do when they know they're going to be gone and things are going to get rough. He gives them a little bit of perspective, promises the Holy Spirit, kind of says, hey, there's going to be some tough times coming. People aren't going to like you. Hang in there. It's good that I'm leaving because the Holy Spirit's coming. All right. Then in 17, he prays. And in 18, he gets arrested. That's it. Last few hours. And the thing that he says more often than anything else is, love each other like I've loved you. And that is how you stay connected with me. That is how you pursue intimacy with God. Who's thought of that before? It's not anywhere near where I usually go when I think about intimacy with God. I'll be honest with you. Dr. Perry gave me the topic, and I went, all right, at least I get to talk to people about being good to each other. And I'm not sure I necessarily see the connection with intimacy with God and us loving each other. And then I started looking at it, and it's like, holy cow. I don't quite have things figured out like I thought I did. I think we're in the mess we're in, and I'll define the mess. And the mess is this, is there's an awful lot of people in the world who got no interest in Christianity right now. And that's on us. Okay? Because I'm convinced anybody who actually meets Jesus would like him. He's fantastic. Who wouldn't love this guy, given an opportunity? The problem is that people in the world today got to get through us. And get through a bunch of people claiming to be Jesus' disciples to find him. All right? And we're just not loving people like he did. We just aren't. And for a while now, I've thought, well, and that really sucks for the people who don't get a chance to meet Jesus because of us. But now what I'm realizing is it totally sucks for us. We're not as close to God as we could be because we're not loving people. So not only are people out there suffering and living apart from God because we don't love them, we're actually a little bit further from God because we're not loving them. So we got to do something about this, right? I mean, all right, I think we sit in our church and we can somewhat safely point a fairly accusatory or condemning finger at some of my brothers and sisters in the church. Okay, so I think it's pretty easy to look at kind of the modern state of white evangelical Christianity in America and pretty quickly go, you know what, that is not loving people like Jesus loves people. All right. You don't, yeah, I'm not. You don't allow yourself to be completely co-opted and manipulated by a political party and then be able to tell people that you love them. So my concern is that it's fairly easy that we don't see ourselves in that camp. And so it's fairly easy to say, oh yeah, those people have messed it up for everybody. Thankfully, we haven't. We can sit over here in our kind of socioeconomic standing, our kind of cultural, mix, and we can kind of go, yeah, no, we're good. We're not making the mess that others are. And that's a lie from the pit of hell. we're it's just sorry. I mean, honestly, are you loving people like Jesus loved you? No, there was never any promise it would be easy, Pastor Kevin. In fact, if it's easy, you're doing it wrong. Because it ain't costing you anything. And love, as Jesus understands it, is costly. Maybe ultimately, mortally costly. All right? I think it's the challenge of our time as modern believers in Jesus to stop living out of fear of what is going to happen in the future and focus on just loving people in the here and now. All right? We need to stop worrying about the institution of marriage. We need to stop worrying about, the racial makeup of our community. We need to stop worrying about any of the changes, which political party is going to have the Supreme Court justice to do whatever. That isn't what God is calling you and me to worry about. He breaks it all down to love each other the way that I loved you. And do that now to the people closest to you. And don't live afraid of where we're going or where the future is going to take us. We haven't done that, and a lot of people are not interested in anything we have to say right now. Like, our job right now as believers is not to talk. We have lost the right, in a lot of cases, to speak. And we need to re-earn the right to talk to our culture and our society. How do we re-earn that? Well, we get intimate with Jesus. How do you get intimate with Jesus? You love the people around you. We've got some work to do. But it's great because the work isn't just for those people. It's for us. It's how Jesus says we get close to him. So, you can be a little bit selfish as you're loving folks. Because you can go, yeah, well, I'm doing this because it enhances my connection with the Lord. And that's okay. That doesn't take anything away from the love you're extending. I wanted to tell a few stories, show a few pictures of what I think this love looks like or could look like today. All right? 2011, the Coptic Christians in Egypt, okay, this is the Christian church in Egypt, they were getting smacked around. All right, the Islamic Brotherhood had taken power. The Muslim majority really looked at the Coptic Christians as someone to be gotten rid of. Or at least some of them felt that way. And this church is getting persecuted, and they're getting smacked around. And there's a couple of attacks that happen in the week leading up to Christmas. And there's some real fear about what is going to happen when we gather in our churches on Christmas Eve for Christmas Mass. And an incredibly large group of Muslim people formed a human shield around Coptic church congregations all over the country. They literally put their bodies between this persecuted minority and anybody who would seek to do them harm. Greater love has no one than to lay down their life. All right? These people are not saying that we believe what the Coptic Christians believe. They're just saying nobody deserves to get blown up when they're celebrating a religious holiday. And so they're willing to stand there and potentially get blown up if someone decided they really wanted to do that. And that happened, I mean, this is one. This happened at every Coptic congregation in the country of Egypt for Christmas Eve. Human shields. Just to protect the lives of some people that they may or may not know, they certainly don't necessarily agree with. But they decided it's a bad idea to blow each other up. So we're going to stand here for them. I went to school with a guy named Troy Anderson. I think I got a photo of him with some of his friends. None of you have ever heard of Troy, I guarantee it. Troy got done with school and bounced around a little bit. I think he went he became an attorney. And when we were in school, he always had aspirations of doing, kind of ending up in D.C. and heading that direction, whether as a politician or as, doing international law, stuff like that. So he had some pretty high aspirations. Somewhere along the line, Troy looked at the situation in Bangladesh, where little girls are married off before they're 15 years old. All right, Bangladesh has the highest rate of child marriage under 15 of any country in the world. All right, it's really bad in the rural, kind of poor areas where marriage is seen as a way to secure some level of financial security for the daughter's family. And so these girls don't get to go to school. They don't get to get an education. They don't get all they get to do is at 14 get married to somebody that their parents pick. Right, and Troy looked at that and went, that's horrible. So he moved to Bangladesh. And he started this organization called Speak Up for the Poor. And he started what they call GEP, which is a girls' education program. And he set up a sponsorship model, a little bit like Compassion International, where you sponsor a kid. And he's got this whole group. I mean, he's up to, I believe, almost 1,000 girls are now receiving an education, and their parents and their families are being talked to about the ravages of marrying your daughter off early. And he is saved untold, he's saved hundreds of little girls from this. And is transforming. I mean, this is going to take a while because they're young and they've got to go. They all want to be teachers, and they all want to be lawyers, and they all want to be nurses. They all want to be the things that their community needs, but they never get to become because they get yanked out of school and married off. And Troy's over there, obviously not from Bangladesh, getting threatened and assaulted and intimidated by the guys in these villages that want their child brides. And he's over there loving the girls, giving up I mean, he's a long way from Washington, D.C. It's the kind of stuff we got to start doing. Now, I mean, I don't want you to think that you have to start some, worldwide NGO in order to love people and be intimate with Jesus. It doesn't have to be that complicated. It doesn't have to be that big. It doesn't even have to be that dangerous all the time, right? There was a softball game a few years ago out in the Pacific Northwest where I lived. And this is going to be funny. Two things make Eric Porter cry on a regular basis: the Summer Olympics and the Little League World Series. Because there is something about the just unbridled emotion that comes out in those two places. All right? The NFL doesn't make me cry. The NCAA doesn't make me cry. Major League Baseball really doesn't make me cry. But the Little League World Series in the summer, and then this story slays me. So forgive me if I lose it in front of you. There's this softball game, and it's Western Oregon University playing Central Washington. And you've never heard of either of those because they're really not major universities. They're not big-time Division I sports. All right? And it's coming down to the end of the season, and these two are neck and neck for the playoff spot. All right, the winner's going to the playoffs. The loser's season is over. All right, and it's senior day at Central Washington where it's being played. So if Central Washington loses, their season is over, and for many of the girls on the field, their softball career is over. Because you don't go from small school softball in the Pacific Northwest, where it rains most of the year, so you don't even get to play a lot, all right, to any sort of professional career. All right, let's face it, there's not much of a professional career for female softball players. All right, so it's over for whoever loses today. All right? And there's a gal playing first base for Central Washington. Her name is, I'm going to get this right, Mallory Holtman. Mallory is all world. Mallory should have played Division I somewhere. Mallory holds every offensive record that Central Washington University has. I think to this day she still holds some of these. All right? She's been graduated for a long time. All right? And so she's a senior. She's super competitive. She's amazing at what she does. All right? She's playing first base. Second inning, Sarah Chikolsky comes up to bat for Western Oregon. She is the exact opposite of Mallory. Sarah is what they call slap hitting. All right? Sarah's never hit a home run in her entire life. Practice, high school, college, never. All right? She hits little ground balls and tries to run them out. And she's in a slump. She hasn't had a hit in like 34 at-bats. And Sarah does the unthinkable. Hits the ball over the fence. Just connects in a way that she's never connected before in her entire life. Home run over the fence. How excited do you think she is? All right? Never had this feeling before. I've never watched a ball go over the fence. In her excitement, she misses first base as she's running. Fortunately, she realizes that she missed it, and she stops to go back. Blows her knee out. Shredded her ACL. Okay? Crawls back to first base and hugs the bag and lays there crying because her leg just exploded. And very quickly, somebody from her dugout yells, "Don't touch her!" All right, because there's a first base coach right there. And somebody in the dugout realizes that if anybody on her team touches or helps her, she's out. Home run doesn't count. All right, and then we get her off the field. So then this quick umpires, coaches get what can we do? Can we put a pinch runner in? Well, if you put a pinch runner in, then it's not a home run. the pinch runner takes over at first base, and she gets credit for a single and the 2 RBIs that scored. And there's all this discussion. All the while, what's Sarah doing? Sarah's holding on to first base and crying. All right, her last game of her college career, she just went from the highest high she's ever experienced on a softball field to the feeling of her leg exploding underneath her. She's laying there crying in the dirt. And there's this discussion about what are we going to do? And Mallory's playing first base. So she's right there. She's got a front row seat for this whole thing. And Mallory's listening to the thing, and Mallory's got Sarah here crying, and Mallory's hit a lot of home runs. She knows what that feels like, likes that. And Mallory just simply steps over to the meeting that's happening with the umpires and says, "Can I help her?" And Mallory and the shortstop for Central Washington pick Sarah up, and they carry her around the bases. Why does this make me cry? I don't understand it. I don't. And they stop at each base, and they lower her down, and she touches the bag, and then they walk to the next one and touch the bag, take her to home where all of her teammates are waiting, touch home, give her off to the thing. 3-run home run. All right? Central Washington needs to win this game. The thing to do, if you're Central Washington here, is let her lay there in the dirt. Let one of them come and touch her and then point it out to the umpire. Let them put someone in as a pinch runner so this is a single and not a home run. That's how you win. That's how you extend your career. That's how we play the game. Mallory looks at Sarah crying and says, Can I help her? Like, you guys can't, but can I? Mallory lost. They lost the game. They didn't go to the playoffs. Season over. Lost by 2 that day. So their actions to help Sarah around the bases contributed to the end of their losing the game, end of season, end of career, everything. Right? You don't have to start a worldwide NGO to love somebody like Jesus did. Just pick them up on a softball field and take them around the bases because that's what you want. Just see people and love them. And understand that in doing that, not only are you loving them, that's obviously great for Sarah, all right? But it's pretty fantastic for us because it's how we connect to Jesus. It's also how you get an award on the ESPYs for Moment of the Year. You know, So Jesus, in his last few hours with his disciples, says, if you want to be intimate with me, obey my commands. And the command that I'm going to sum it all up with is love each other like I've loved you. If I was truly a reductionist, I would have come up here and said that and sat down. Want to be intimate, obey his commands. You want to obey commands, love each other like Jesus loves. Now, what's interesting, and we'll finish with this, who's laying right next to Jesus when this whole thing goes down? John. All right, John writes the book of John. You know what else John also writes? The book of 1 John. See, the Bible's not all that complicated. All right, so, and he's got this part of chapter 4 in 1 John, which is essentially a commentary on what Jesus said back in John 15. So you've got the primary source writing a commentary about what he heard and understood that happened. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God. That sounds fairly intimate. And God in them. This is how love is made complete among us, so that we will have confidence on the day of judgment. In the world, we are like Jesus. Do that again. This is how love is made complete among us, so that we will have confidence on the day of judgment. In this world, we are like Jesus. There is no fear in love. But perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. We love because he first loved us. Whoever claims to love God yet hates a brother or sister is a liar. For whoever does not love their brother or sister, whom they have seen, can't love God, whom they have not seen. And he has given us this command: anyone who loves God must also love their brother and sister. That's the primary source writing the secondary source. You know? He was laying right there when he said it, and then breaks it down. Tyler's going to come next week, and his whole sermon is how to recapture intimacy with God. I'm stealing his thunder. I'm going to tell you the answer right now. He's not here either. Put your phone away. What Jesus says is that if you want to be connected to me, you love each other. God bless Tyler and whatever he's going to say, but Jesus says, Jesus just took that loving him and loving each other and brought them together. That is an incredibly short line now between those two. So we don't have the kind of intimacy with Jesus that we want. And what it seems fairly clear to me by this is we don't have that because we're not loving each other the way that we should. And I'm not going to go into all the reasons for why. You figure out your problem. I got enough with mine. I mean, it's all the same answers. We don't do this kind of stuff because it's costly, because it's dangerous, because it's risky, because I might get hurt, because. You know, and what we have to just start doing in the moments where we can do it is make choices to love people. Stand between someone who someone else wants to hurt. Give up your plans to better the life of someone else. Pick somebody up who's busted, even if it might mean things don't work out great for you. That's what Jesus is talking about when he says love one another.
give the Lord a